Well, seeing as you're here, figured I'd put Tiny Whisk in the intro panel. Why not? Uh, as always, let me know if there's any sound balancing issues. Uh, but yeah, I have a pretty, I think it's gonna be a pretty quick, light recipe today. I'm gonna do a couple odd things that hopefully make it a touch more interesting. Um, but including drinking some water on screen. Uh, but yeah, the whisk is going to get a little bit of use. Let's see, what all do I need besides the scallops, which I got out because they were big. As usual, I have come across a bunch of discounted products in order to concoct a thing. We have scallops on their last day. Oop, get back on the countertop. Get rid of those guys. We have scallops on their last day of use. We have a jar of artichoke hearts with flavor pre-added, also discounted. All sorts of goodies. I don't think there's going to be much chopping today, but I will be compiling some ingredients over here on the counter. Um, and it's nothing takes super long. I've noticed that I've been trying to stretch things out in order to get them to take longer. But my favorite things that I cook for myself aren't very long. I made Philly mac and cheese steak yesterday. I loved it, but it took 15 minutes. So maybe I should just make little ones and record them. Who knows? Who knows? Let's get rid of that. I don't need that because we have now officially started. And I suppose step one is going to be get these scallops out of here because there's too many scallops. I only need half of them, but they're swimming in their white juices, which I want to save. Um, so to get these juices out of here, I'm going to poke holes in the plastic on either end. One for air to come in, one for juice to come out, and then just drain it off. There's not a ton of juice in there, but it's got scallopy flavor. They, I've run across this before where they've sold a big heap of scallops at a discount, trying to get rid of them. And it's a little tricky to use them up. Fortunately, they freeze pretty well. So I'm just going to pull out the amount that I want for one serving. And the rest can hold for future project. They don't keep forever, obviously, but they freeze pretty well. Go out of the way. And you don't need a ton of scallops for one serving. These are small scallops, like I think they call these bay scallops. They're just, I don't know if they're a different species or they're just smaller scallops, but they're generally not super expensive compared to the big like hockey puck size ones. Um, they cook faster and they're a little bit less, I don't know, meaty steak-like when you're done because they're so much smaller. Should open that bag before I dove in. I think they're good for quick recipes that you want to throw some seafood in but don't want too much effort. I feel like they're more forgiving to cook than, say, shrimp. Shrimp go overcooked quickly. I think scallop stands up to a little bit more punishment. And unlike a lot of other shellfish, there's no other parts to most scallops that you'll buy in the store because it's already been trimmed down to just the muscle part. This little white muscle. So you don't have to worry about shells or bits of its digestive tract or anything. Fortunately, today's garbage day because the foam packaging that your seafood comes in very quickly develops a bit of a funk if it's left in the trash in your kitchen. But my trash is going out, so I don't have to worry about that. And of course, handling raw meat, even raw fish. Good idea to wash your hands frequently before touching other things. And when you roll the plastic back like that, you can get it upright without touching the inside where all the fishy goo is. Then try to squeeze as much air out as possible. This would be a situation for a vacuum sealer or a water bath. If you've got a water bath, you can dip a bag in. Oh, here, you can't even, I'll do it up here. You've got like a tub of water, you can dip the bag in, and the water will pinch the air out for you. Much better than you could squeeze it out with your hands. And then all you gotta do is zip the top. I didn't do that, but but then these guys, the rest of these guys, are going in the freezer because it's their last day of freshness. And I will put them somewhere where I won't forget about them because I've done that far too often. Stuck something in the freezer and forgotten, and then found it later. Like, oh, this is very badly freezer burned. And then it was a disappointment. Vacuum sealing would help that. I should probably pick up just a simple vacuum sealer at some point. The amount of stuff I try to save and freeze, it would pay for itself, I think. Okay, so there's scallop juice in there, and I want to do the same thing with the artichokes because they've got a flavory liquid on them already. According to the labeling, sunflower, olive oil, vinegar, salt, spiced garlic, paprika, saffron, turmeric, and everyone's favorite, ascorbic acid. So it actually seems like it's a lot of oil, which is interesting. Wasn't I suppose I thought it was going to be more vinegar, less oil, but I can work with that. Should have read that before I started. They are going to go in a glass dish. But I want to drain the liquid off into its own separate dish. Now I'm going to combine it with the scallop juice. We're going to use all the liquid. And end up using all the liquid from the scallops, the artichokes. I'm going to add some white wine to it. Is it really in here? I was super happy when I found a big pile of discounted artichokes. I love opening a package. Like I like artichokes, but they're really a pain to try to deal with from a fresh artichoke. You gotta get in there, make sure to get the choke out, which these have all been de-choked. I just find them a pain. So prepackaged artichoke hearts for me all the way. Ingredient 1 prepped, ingredient 2 prepped. Let's get my spices going. So I want to have a very black pepper forward sauce. For that, I want toasted black pepper. I don't have toasted black pepper. I just have plain black pepper. Of which I'm going to use quite a bit of it there. That's more than probably a half tablespoon of what's that? Probably about 1.5 teaspoons. Or is it half tablespoon? A little bit less than half tablespoon. Get these guys over to the stove. I'm using the small pan, small burner. And they're just going in completely dry. On medium heat. Dry heating spices, kind of perks up the flavors and the oils that are in them. Some spices don't respond well to it. Some I would hardly use without spice toasting them for certain dishes. You'll pre-toast spices for you'll dry pan toast spices for like curries a lot. All those little seeds, they'll really perk up a lot. But you got to keep an eye on them because they don't want them to burn. Because then they just taste acrid and scorched. So I'm going to attentively pay attention to these guys while also trying to keep up the chatter. Once they're done toasting in there, I'm going to crush them up in my mortar because I want to get them well infused with the sauce. Let's see, what else goes in a sauce? going to need an onion. So while that's on the go, I'm going to dice up an onion. I feel like onions have gotten bigger recently. It's hard to find a small onion. You know, like a bag of onions. Let's get us back over to the countertop. Black peppercorns are already starting to smell fragrant. Shows you how quick they'll go if you lose them. What I'm going for is fragrant. If I'm lucky, some of them will pop. Because much like a popcorn, a black peppercorn is watertight. So if there's enough left to the innards, they can burst when you heat them. A lot of them don't do that because they've been dried. But fresh ones will do it. If you ever get fresh black peppercorns. I don't know where we get most of our black peppercorns, where they're grown. I've never looked into it. I assume they're not being grown in the U.S. But I guess I don't know. They're native to somewhere in Asia. Because they were like the spice that kicked off the spice trade between Asia, East Asia, and Europe. And the reason there was all that exploration to try to find a quicker way to get over there for black pepper. Now we have it sitting next to salt on our tables, and it's everywhere. But it was the king of spices. The awkward thing about toasting spices is they don't look any different while they're doing it until they burn. And when they burn, it's too late. The only thing that they do is they smell different, which is just perfect for an all-visual show. I think they're just about done. They're twitching. Can you see that on the camera there? Ooh, one of them just popped. One of them just popped. Oh, they're too far away. You might get lucky and spot. Well, you can see a little bit of it. They move. They twitch around like little. Because they're craggly on the surface and they're heating slightly unevenly. I'm going to turn the heat off and get them in the mortar. I believe that when they start to jump, they're done. But they were jumping around. It was tough to see because they were on the far burner. I didn't want to put them on the big close burner, and that back burner that the pan is sitting on now is not very good. I suppose it probably would have been good enough for toasting the spices. Oops, I forgot to switch back to the countertop because I am chopping an onion. Does it seem dim over here to you? I don't know. I unplugged my computer from all these cameras, and I think doing that causes the system to lose all of the camera settings. I end up having to reset them all every time, which is annoying. I guess the camera settings aren't saved in the computer, they're saved in the cameras, which is just strange. Okay, what have we got? We've got our onions, we've got our artichokes, we've got our scallops. The onion would have been a shallot if I had thought ahead and gotten any shallots, but I did not. Shallots are pretty much just smaller onions with sort of a milder flavor, but they also have this fun pink color. I'm going to put a little bit of zing in here, so I'm grabbing one of my dried peppers, a little bit of salt, which will help braid the bits as I'm grinding them. The pepper will grind up actually very easily. Dried chili peppers like that are super easy to grind in the mortar, except for the seeds. The seeds are very resistant. This would be a chance if I wanted to throw some bay in there. Since I'm not doing a stew type thing, if I want to get that bay flavor in there, I would want to crush it up. The bay leaves are very hard to crush up, so I'm going to throw one bay leaf in, and the abrasion of the salt and the other spices are going to help it break up, but I'm going to have to crush it into little flakes first. I like the flavor of bay. It's very subtle. I'm gonna throw in just a little bit of thyme, but I don't know that I want to put that right here. You know what I kind of want to do is steep the thyme. There's going to be a little bit of milk in this, so I could do a warmed milk thyme tea. Okay, I'm doing that. We're putting in. This isn't milk, this is half and half. Quarter cup of half and half. We're gonna go warm that. I forgot to check if I've been losing any frames. Apparently I've lost 4,000 frames. How's my connection been? Have you been able to see me this whole time? I haven't hooked up. I don't have a long enough cable to hook up a new internet box. Yeah, I have to go out and get one. I was hoping to get that hooked up because then I would have a more secure connection, because I'm positive that I lose. I stutter and I lose stuff because it's currently trying to connect over the Wi-Fi, which used to be, just not even 10 feet away. Okay. These guys crushing while that milk is warming up in the other room. Toasting your black pepper also softens it and makes it easier to grind in the mortar. I think it has something to do with the slightly popcorny interior. Okay. I have become a big fan of grinding my own spices by hand. But I've also gassed myself a couple of times. I did try to make spicy popcorn using one of those dried chili peppers, little dried chilies. And what I wanted the flavor to be very pervasive, I ground it into an extremely fine dust. And it got too fine. Fine to the point where it was airborne constantly. I almost couldn't eat the popcorn because it was like pepper spraying myself every time I jostled it, and the particles floated around. So that was a huge mistake. So now I am careful not to grind my chilies super powdery. It's uncontrollable chili dust. Um, I'm glad I bought all those chilies. I got an absolute ton of those dried chilies. They were super easy to dry, very cheap at the farmer's market when they were in season, and they are very potent. Uh, I've got a trick in mind, but I got to see if this pan is large enough for it. Oh, not quite. So a trick I saw just yesterday, very recently, is instead of cooking pasta, or spaghetti, or in this case I've got vermicelli, in a big tall pot, cook it in a short, wide pot, so that you can just lay all of the noodles down. Because it comes to a boil faster. None of your noodles are sticking out while it's cooking. So you don't have one end cook faster than the other end as they kind of sort of try to sink in. And you use less water, so the water becomes starchier, which you want if you want to pull some of that starchy pasta water out for making a pan sauce, a pasta sauce. Unfortunately, it seems that my largest pan is not quite wide enough for this trick to work. And that new skillet I have is not ready for action yet. Let's see. I've also been told that there is a hack, and I'm very hesitant about these, regarding the spoon with the teeth on it that you're supposed to use for pasta. The hack claims that the amount of pasta that fits inside the hole in the spoon is enough for one person. And you know what? That seems just about right. Huh. My rule of thumb is the rule of thumb. If it fits in there. But I guess that's just about the same size as the hole in the spoon. So, you know what? I'm going to say hack confirmed, although they're a little bit tricky to line up to get in there. They're slightly different lengths, so they want to catch on the edges. But that's just about the same amount, and they fit. So, okay. I guess we're going with it. keep it in mind. We're using vermicelli today because it's what I have. There's no reason this is the pasta to use for this. I think this would work fine with farfalle, which are the little bow ties, or any of those sort of fun frilly shapes, just as well as it would with a long one. I probably wouldn't use a tube pasta for this, because the sauce is going to be chunks that are much too large to get into the tubes, and then sort of a thinner, creamier sauce. Uh, so the idea was supposed to be, let's see if I now see this. I still have to break them if I want to do this. Uh, would you be offended if I broke my pasta? Probably not. But it's bad form. I will enrage all of the Italians. All of the Italians watching right now. Aww. Trying to think if there's any other things I want to get out before I start putting them together. I don't think so. Given that the trick with the pasta is not going to work in this pan, I'm just going to use my regular steel pan for pasta, which is this one. Stovetop. This one. Which I have, as you can see by the black sheen on the bottom, used forever. It's my popcorn pan, actually. But it's a good stainless steel pot. So I for a long time I've used non-stick, but I've been much more enjoying using stainless steel lately. Because for one thing, it doesn't wear out the way non-sticks do. A stainless steel pan, just like a cast iron pan, just like a carbon steel pan, if you take care of it, will just last. Because you're not hurting the metal. Whereas those non-stick coatings, while convenient, they wear down, and eventually they start to flake off into the food. So you really have to pay attention to them and not use one that's old. Because I don't know what the health effects are of eating Teflon, but I can't imagine it's recommended. So that's going to come to a boil. I'm going to salt that water, although not as heavily as I think I normally would. In part because we have vermicelli, which are thinner than spaghetti. And in part because there is going to be some salt in the sauce, and I'm finishing the pasta in the sauce. Speaking of the sauce, this guy is going to serve as our sauce base. I like shellfish and butter, but I don't want it to be pure. I don't think I want it to be a pure butter base. For one thing, that'll burn. So I'm going to do a half and half olive oil and ghee. Well, maybe I'll do mostly olive oil and a little bit of ghee, because that was more olive oil than I think a half and half calls for. Ghee is, of course, just clarified butter. It's had all of the other parts of the milk taken out of it, and it is 100% just the fatty part remaining, which makes it shelf stable, gives it a very, very high smoke point. Great for lots of cooking applications in which you want that sort of creaminess, but butter would burn. Because the part of the butter that burns isn't the fat in the butter, it's the leftover milk sugars and proteins and stuff. So we're going to get that ghee melted. And then I'm going to start by slowly, turn the heat down, slowly sauteing the onions. The finished dish here is going to look pretty white. So I'm going to need some way to get those all-important green specks. You can't have fancy food without green specks in it. Uh, it's just a rule. Unless the goal of the food is to be completely speckless. Which I'm not going for. I want the green specks. So, I have some parsley. Do I still have some parsley in here? Yes, I have some on its last legs parsley. So I guess I will salvage what I can of that, and that will be my source of my green specks. Oh, right, I was going to put some wine into my mix as well. So I'm holding off on doing the scallop. I was almost considering doing the scallops separately, pulling them out, and then re-adding them so they didn't get overcooked. But I think I can handle just putting them in at the correct time. Okay, I've added some white wine to our mix of scallop juice and artichoke marinade. My thyme milk formed a bit of a skin, and all the thyme leaves got stuck in the skin part. Okay, well, those thyme leaves are going to provide green specks, and I forgot about those. How could I have forgot about those? You may also have noticed I changed my face today. I decided I would stop using a piece of art that I stole from Google Images and make my own. And I then realized that I don't have proper art programs on my computer, so I really awkwardly smashed it together in GIMP, which does not have a shape draw function, which I didn't realize until I had already started. But I'm pretty happy with the result. He's a cute little, happy little dude. He can be my mascot. Maybe I can find an actual artist to do a cover of him. Okay, our oil is ready, or is melted. So I'm going to start off the onions. The idea here is I don't want them to cook real fast. I want to not quite sweat them out, but cook them a little bit slower so they don't go all brown and burnt. so in goes the vermicelli, which cooks slightly faster than. The package doesn't even say. Yes, it cooks faster than spaghetti does. So keep an eye on it. I don't want to overshoot it. Oh, and I forget out. I have another brand new toy, which I will now showcase here. It's a spatula with a wooden handle. So I can put it on the side of the pan and not worry about the handle melting. Oh boy, I wish there was a way to do smells, because the smell of these onions, this clarified butter oil mix is amazing. I wish we could get one of these out. Let's put just a dash of salt. So salting your onions while you're sauteing them will actually slow down the saute just a hair, because it draws water out of the onions, then has to boil before the temperature can continue browning the onion. You do that when you're caramelizing onions. You salt them to draw all the moisture out, because you want them to slowly caramelize and not burn on the outside, or brown on the outside. You want them to brown from the sugar turning to caramel rather than brown from the outside becoming browned in the traditional sense. Uh, so, yeah, we're sauteing up some onions, keeping an eye on our clock because the pasta doesn't. I don't want to overcook the pasta. I'm going to end up finishing it in the sauce. I also want to get some of that water out of there right at the end. So, I'm going to have the pasta ready to go in a side dish. Pop it in at the end. It's going to be coming up, so I should get a bowl ready. And I guess since I've already used the hook handled, the tooth handled, this guy, I don't know what these are called, pasta spoon. I will use that to get him out of there. But onions are coming along nicely. Yeah, this one's off the edge there. So the artichokes are already technically fully cooked. I could just eat them straight up. But I want to get their flavors imparted into all that's going on here. So we are going to have to saute them with the onions. So I guess I'll throw them in now. They're big chunks. There's quite a lot of liquid in the artichokes, and then also I'm going to add a bunch of liquid. So I want to get some of these guys sort of cooking off some of the excess liquid that we have in the whole system here. I hopefully remembered to change my title before starting today. seen what I'm cooking, but if you've just arrived and don't know, I'm making a scallop artichoke pasta with a pepper sauce, for which I have ground up a lot of pepper, toasted a bunch of pepper, and then ground it up. And now we are sauteing onions, and I've just added artichokes. Clean up my workstation here, not that you can see it, but good idea to keep things neatened up a bit. Got the temperature pretty low on this burner, but I think I need to get just a shade higher than that. This pan I'm using is one of my new favorites because it doesn't rock to either side, it sits firmly, which is a problem I've had a lot with a lot of my pans. Shoot. I overshot my vermicelli because I was chit-chatting to nobody. Ordinarily, I just strain directly over the sink and all of the liquid goes down. So I would have pulled the quarter cup out ahead of time. But I didn't do that today. So this guy's going in a side bowl. And we pull out the quarter cup to retrieve some of our starchy water, which I'm going to add right into my marinade and scallop juice mix. Golly, this one's going much. I did preface this with it's going to be faster than normal, and by golly, it is. Not even in an hour. I didn't spend enough time chattering. I think this is a good time to add my lots of spices. Very black pepper, much wow. Oh, you know what I should add? Oh, welcome in. How do you pronounce that? Erenderani. Welcome in. Did I salt the pasta water? Yes. There's salt in the pasta water, but not as much as I normally would put in, because there's going to be quite a bit of salt in the pan as well. Because there was salt in that spice mix that I just dumped in there. I forgot to do fresh garlic. Not too late, so let's actually bring our temperature down. This guy's pushed around a bit. Normally I salt water quite heavily, but because of the extra salt, and there's salt in some of the juice that I haven't yet added to it, I don't want tons of salt. Also, the pasta is vermicelli rather than spaghetti, so the thinner noodles would soak up more of the salt as well. So Um, so I forgot to add. Let's forget to do something. I can never get through any cooking project without having forgotten something and have to scramble to do it. This is my garlic skin removing silicone tube, as has been featured once before on an episode I don't think anyone watched. It's super handy. I don't know where I got it. Well, I think I was given it to me, but it has no branding on it at all. So if you can find one, I guess go for it. I don't know where to find one. Since I forgot to do the garlic and I don't want to waste time, I'm actually going to microplane it directly into. Get back over the stove. I'm going to microplane it directly into the pan. While I'm over here at the stove, I can't quite see chat here across the way. Yes, Tiny Whisk had so far done one thing, and that was get the time to play nice with the warm milk. But he will remain for moral support. I should do what I've got on the other angle and put a countertop cam angle over here on the stove. Okay, we're starting to stick at the bottom. It's not super bad. Uh, Again, I don't want to overshoot the scallops too much, but they're forgiving enough that I think I'm going to put them in now. I've got the heat fairly low. We're going to end up turning the heat up once the liquids get in here because I'm looking at the amount of liquid that I'm planning on adding to this, and I might have to not add all of it. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll add it a bit at a time, so I don't have to sit here and boil it down if I end up adding too much. That's probably the logical way to do it. I feel like my cameras are set extra dim today. I'll have to compare it on the bot. Temperature up. Scooch. Let's get rid of those little garlic nubs. The little root end of garlic is a good handle when you're putting it through a microplane like I just did. Zipping it through there, because you can hold on to that little nub, and then the little nub it just gets thrown away. Let's see, I need to look at this parsley, see if it's any good. Very wilty, but it's not icky. So I'm doing this deliberately in a place that you guys can't see it, because it's a little over the hill. Don't use old vegetables, kids. They're not. They don't keep forever. But parsley in a pasta dish is pretty good. Okay, my goal here with the scallops is to get them. You can see they're changing color a bit. Get them kind of evenly cooked. Before I add the liquid, because they're just going to kind of boil their own juices then. And when I add the liquid, it will help pick up anything that sticks to the bottom. I want it to be sort of a creamy sauce. All right, I got it. Ooh. Oh, my nose was dripping all of a sudden. I want it to be a creamy sauce, so I'm going to add the half and half with thyme in it, because I also want to get the thyme in here. Get our temperature up, and let's add that part. Let it start to bubble. Well, I'm going to have enough time after all this to do a second project even. So this is half and half that was pre-warmed, and then had thyme steeping it to try to infuse some of that herby flavor. It wasn't incredibly liquidy, which is good. It's coming up to a bubble quite quickly. If I've got enough time for a second project, what should I do? It can't be something for dinner tonight because I'm eating this pasta for dinner tonight. I can do bread. I'll probably do bread. Right at the end, after all this is put together, I'll do a taster and then I'll put it on to keep warm, and then I will make bread dough. Howdy do. Welcome in. I've been here. I'm just thinking this recipe is not taking as much time as previous ones. I didn't expect it to. And I've actually been deliberately kind of waffling around and going slow. It's still coming up towards doneness. I wonder if you know what happened. You know what happened there. You know what happened. Oh, don't worry about it. This is the show after all. Anyone can come in at any time. That's the joy of it. I think the acid, the vinegar in the artichokes, has caused the half and half to split, because it's not smoothly creamy. It's not like there's lumps in it, but you can see it's kind of got a little bit of a texture to it. But you've come in sort of toward the end of the project here. And I was just thinking about what I could do afterwards, since I've got extra time. And I think I'm gonna put down a bread dough. Because I didn't have a second thing in mind. And I don't have bread right now. So I don't have a bunch of ingredients prepped for a second project, but I do need bread. And I always have ingredients for bread. Anyways, now I've got liquid, a lot of liquid in there. And I need to get it reduced a bit. I want it to sort of thicken into a sauce. At the moment it's a soup. But things you've missed along the way, it's got one dried chili pepper, toasted black pepper, a lot of toasted black pepper. I ground up some thyme leaves there and there. We have a tea of thyme milk sorry, I ground up some bay leaves. The bay leaves are ground up. I made a tea of milk and thyme to throw in there. The noodles are ready to go. They're kind of firming themselves up on the side. And I only added half of the liquid I had sort of assembled for this. And I think that's going to be plenty. By the time this the noodles very much want it to be one chunk. By the time this liquid is loosened up into boiled down into a sauce, rather than being this just soup, I'll be at risk of overshooting on the scallops. So I don't want to add any more liquid to this. The noodles will help soak up some of the liquid as well. Although I did overshoot the noodles just a bit as well. So if the noodles had been properly al dente, then they would have been able to act as a sponge for some of this juice as they finish off in the pan. Keep an eye on that pan, guys. Uh, the final ingredient, my slightly sad-looking parsley, being contributed to the pan because you gotta have a little green bits. Gotta have a little green specks. Ooh, boy. I got a little bit on my finger, and wow, it's a peppery concoction. Wowee. And, as usual, I think I've probably made enough for two here, but it's so hard to cook for just one person. I won't be adding any cheese on the top of this. I think Parmesan cheese clashes with scallops, personally. I think our sauce is about saucy. You may notice the new spatula that can just sit on the side. It's just sitting on the side. Super convenient. Let's get out our handy dandy big white plate. Pop us back over here. Oh, look at those lines. And we're plating up yes, the spatulas came. I washed them up and then discovered that my spatula jar is full, so they're currently sitting in a pile on the side. I'm gonna have to reorganize and prioritize which ones I actually use. I feel like my lighting has gotten worse, but only on the cameras. Bear with me half a moment here while I test this. Dark, bright, too bright. Fine, whatever. Just doesn't. What's happened with the camera? It used to be like it was better last week. This week it's either too dim or washed out. I don't want to pick it. Anyways, that's the thing. Let's give it a taste for the camera. One of each thing. Pasta, an artichoke, and a scallop. Oops, dropped the scallop. Immediately dropped the scallop. One nice, neat bite. I've got the camera, or the microphone slightly away from my face. Aha. Okay, I think I pulled it the right time. I think the scallops would have gone rubber if I left them in there any longer. It's vinegary, it's salty, it's very peppery, lots of layers of pepper. I've made something approximately like this for myself before, and I liked it then, and I like it now. I'm going to stylize it a little bit here. Because I want to get a picture of it. But I think that is a success. Wish I knew what happened over here on the. Well, there will be a better picture of that posted because I've got better lighting in the other room. Let's see if I can get a good. It looks better over here. I mean, it's kind of a beige thing, anyways, which is why I wanted to add the green specks. Anyways, that is the main dish. My second project, because I have some time, it's not even quite dinner time, this was quick enough. I'm going to put I don't have a real cloche, but I've got some oversized stainless steel bowls. Which can kind of serve in their stead. So it doesn't go chilly on me while doing something else. I am going to put in a bread dough. Well, I've got y'all. I'll even add it to the title. Ooh, it's spicy. I think the cream helped balance out the spice a little bit, but it's very, very peppery, like black peppery. some stuff to the sides. Because we suddenly have a very different kind of project here. If I'm going to be doing a bread dough. Now this is the standard no knead bread recipe, for which I need the 1/4 teaspoon. I need the, oops, haha, I'm on the wrong, put me over here. I need the yeast. The tricky bit here is going to be pulling out my tiny whisk can keep you guys company. My flour is tucked up behind my spice rack, which means the rice has to come out. Okay. Tiny whisk has only gotten a tiny bit of use today, but he's been sticking around for posterity. So, for baking, you always want to measure things by weight. So, especially flour likes to compress. So the volume might not be the same amount of flour. The same volume might not be the same amount of flour depending on how compacted they are. I just did that in the wrong units, which is okay. So we're measuring out 400 grams of flour. Ugh. 395 grams of flour. $400 grams of flour. Okay, perfect. And have to quickly clean out one of my measuring jugs here because they were both used, and this one I don't want extra residues in. So the no knead bread dough recipe was pioneered by the author of that book, that I can't quite remember the name of. And it is the easiest bread I've ever made. I should probably at some point learn how to make a proper kneaded bread. I almost dumped the water in there without thinking. But you don't dump the water in straight away. You add the other dry ingredients first. 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. It uses a very small amount of yeast because it is going to rise overnight. And if you put in a ton of yeast, a normal amount of yeast, it would blow up like a hot air balloon overnight. It's also going to end up, normally I would say 16 hours, something like that. Started in the evening and then it can be ready for lunch the following day. So that's not 16 hours. Kind of. But it's the winter, and especially when I turn the furnace down at night, it gets quite cool, which slows down the rising of bread yeast a lot. So, starting this early, like I am, is actually a good idea. So that was 1/4 teaspoon of yeast and 5/4 teaspoons of salt. And you typically don't want to dump the salt directly on the yeast because the yeast doesn't like being completely covered in salt. This is a job for our tiny whisk. This looks like a job for tiny whisk. Just want to get the dry ingredients kind of mingled into each other before I add the liquid. Then I won't be whisking it once I add the liquid because it's going to turn into a real gob, a glob. A larger whisk would also do this job, but it would be less cute while it was doing it. And then we're still on our scale. You can't see it, it's hidden completely underneath the bowl. But, and this water is tap warm, not tap hot. And I'm just going to add 300 grams of water. And that's the ratio, 400 grams of flour to 300 grams of water. Gets you the right consistency for the dough. Done. There's two water, unlike flour. Water is totally incompressible, and there are therefore two ways to measure out an exact amount of water. You can do what I just did and pour a jug of water and then just pour it in until you've got 300 grams, or measure out exactly 300 milliliters of water, and that is exactly 300 grams of water because that is how they are defined. Drink him off. Now, I used to do this with my spoon here, and I think this spoon can still do this. Can you see? This spoon has a crack. Can't quite get the focus that close. I've had this spoon forever. It developed a crack right in the spoon, in the handle, and it goes all the way through. I used to use this spoon for this because it's kind of got that nice shape to it. This spoon has been retired to the wall for a while because with that crack in it, I don't want to use it in things and then have stuff get in the crack and then it gets all creepy. So, I have some newer spoons, but they're not quite the same shape. I've got another bamboo spoon. It's very pointy on the end. It feels like it's been used. I got it at the Goodwill. And then I've got this super wide mouth one, which could be good for something like this. What do you think? Audience's choice between these two spoons. Pointy or round? This one, the round one, is made of actual wood, not bamboo. And it's got some kind of a finish on it. Pointy one. Oop. Okay. And now, just have to incorporate the wet parts, or the dry parts into the wet parts, enough that they don't go flying when you start getting vigorous with this. The flour wants to grab onto this water. Narrow, pointy, little pointy guy, stabby spoon. Eventually, we'll name all of my kitchen tools, I suppose. And it always seems to do this when I'm making the bread dough, where it seems like it's not coming together. But as you just kind of push it around, it picks up all the flour, and then it increasingly sticks together into one big sort of ball. Also, welcome in, Shining Spear. I haven't seen you up above anywhere, unless I wasn't paying attention. And then once it's all incorporated, you just kind of leave it like a ball in the middle. Get the extra off the spoon as best you can. It's very sticky at this point. Fortunately, this spoon is still got a decent finish on it, so it's not really textured. That other spoon had a lot of texture to it because it used it for so long, and the dough was just glue right onto it. And it's important to not let that stuff dry on your spoon. I'm currently putting it in a cup of water. I'm going to clean it out. Hi! Oh, you're... Welcome in, Saizan. We're literally right at the end. I've just made bread dough. I can show off my other creation on the camera quick. I had a much shorter project today. But this guy sits in the flying saucer here. We pull up my main cam. Bread dough lives in the flying saucer there. When we check on it tomorrow, it will have grown from here. Oops. It will have grown from here out to like here and turned into a bubbling pool of bread muck, a swamp of bread. That'll be fun, but that takes hours. So I could try to go live with it tomorrow, but I don't think I'll just tell you what, I'll record the process tomorrow and then just post it a short of it. This is going to sit on my kitchen table and wait. Putting the lid on keeps dust and debris from falling on top of the rising bread, and also helps retain moisture inside the bowl. Let me quick show off my creation one last time. Also inside of a steel bowl, but voila, the magic. Haven't snapped a photo of it yet. And we're coming up conveniently right on 6 o'clock, which I think was going to be my dinner time. So let me do a quick explanation of what I did so that you'll be enticed to go back and watch the VOD of it. We've got toasted black pepper, crushed up red pepper, thyme steeped in milk. This concoction, which is a mixture of artichoke marinating liquid, scallop drippings, and white wine. Obviously, artichokes that have been marinated and scallops, vermicelli, and parsley for the green dates. I'll take a proper picture of this with the good light over there. Um, I don't. I should think about trying to hook up a separate light. I can think about that later. Um, and they keep having these sort of awkward light issues just on the countertop. Um, but thanks for coming out. I've only been at this for an hour and a half tonight. Um, but that's what I get for having a bit of a shorter project. I feel like I like the results of the shorter projects more. They're just not terribly long. Last night, for example, some of you have seen a picture of it. Last night I made Philly mac and cheese steak, which only took me 15 to 20 minutes. But damn, was it good. Uh, but it's not the kind of thing that I could do one of these shows about because it didn't take hardly any time at all. Uh, so I'm wondering if I should do those as just recorded shorts and stick them on the YouTube. I could do that. Just plug them directly on the YouTube channel as little shorts. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap up because it's my dinner time. Glad y'all could show up. It's always nice to have someone to chit chat with while I'm doing this. I also am thinking ahead towards other big projects. I kind of want to make a pizza from total scratch at some point because I've never done that. I've made my own dough and such. Um, anyways, yeah, ideas in the works. You let me know. I think everybody in here has got personal contacts with me, but let me know what you think about my ideas. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to take a picture of this at the nice on the nice camera over there. And I will be back next week, same time. I'm aiming for 4:30 as my typical start time. I'll actually make a schedule um, now that I've invested in making my own little face. Uh, anyways, thanks for coming out. Wow, this headset is making my hair do weird things. Thanks for coming out. Catch you next week, or if there's a little short video in between, catch you then. Get ready for an abrupt freeze in 3, 2, 1.